Over here.
Hi, my name is Chris Gates, and I'm from New York, and thank you all for your commitment to this excellent work. My question has to do with language and leadership. You know, the future is very weird. It never seems to get here. It's only ever now. And then the future becomes...
That's a great line, by the way. We should use that.
Okay. And so the future is really kind of a story that we're always making up in the present. So how can our leaders use language in a way that really creates a future that we can step into and opens up what's possible?
Now, Rick's a former speechwriter. He doesn't like to talk about it much.
For a very pessimistic candidate. I think that's a great question because it's perilous. It's the third rail of American politics for any politician, particularly a president, to talk about anything that is downbeat, that's pessimistic. I mean, you know, Mark, in the terrific piece that Mark wrote in Time this week to accompany the poll, references Jimmy Carter's famous malaise speech. And I think I'd argue, actually, what was even worse than saying malaise was wearing a cardigan before the American people, which isn't a very optimistic thing. But again, that, you know, I mean, how in reality, how much did that affect the Carter presidency? I don't really know, but it's a signature moment in that we all remember it and feel like, boy, what a mistake. I mean, I think it would be a mistake, and we were talking about this amongst ourselves beforehand, for President Obama, for example, to become more of a realist and say, actually, you know, things aren't that great, and we haven't really turned it around. He has the bully pulpit. He has to be optimistic and forward-looking, maybe a little more sober and chastened. I mean, you know, in some ways, the greatest example of presidential optimism is Ronald Reagan, and the famous story. You know, there's got to be a pony in there somewhere. I mean, he went through a terrible economic time, and some could argue that his sunniness, his optimism, you know, helped turn perception around, which then turned reality around.
You know, it's an interesting cocktail of influences that have to be brought to bear to help move the country forward. I was a speechwriter, so I would naturally say words are important, although President Clinton used to get angry at us when we would bring him these long speeches, and he would say, words, 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 you know, and we would say, do you want us to write the speeches in numbers? And he didn't want that either. But you know, I want to go back to what I said before. The words need to match the actions and vice versa. And the people, the country needs to be able to both hear and see and feel the impact of these things in concert. And again, if I were in charge of anything right now, one of the words I would ban from every form of legislation is the word comprehensive. No one believes it. It's an overpromise. And it perpetuates this sense that somehow or another we can solve all these things with one fell swoop. So you have to constantly be showing people the things you are doing and keep coming back to it, sometimes at the expense of being ridiculed, if I could, for doing little things, when in fact people grab hold of little things and understand that they have impact in their lives, and you keep going from one little thing to the next little thing, and before you know it, you've done a bunch of big things.
I'm only seeing hands in the front, so I'm sure there's some in the back, but Bob here in the middle.